Tonight you're going to open your phone, type in a destination, and a calm voice will tell you exactly where to go. Turn left, turn right, recalculating. You won't think twice about it. But for almost all of human history, that voice didn't exist. No GPS, no maps, no street signs. And yet, somehow, ancient humans crossed deserts, navigated oceans, and found their way across entire continents without getting lost. So, how did they do it? The answer changes how we think about intelligence, memory, and what the human brain is actually capable of. Let's start with something simple. You are worse at navigation than your ancestors. Not a little worse, a lot worse. Modern humans rely on external tools, phones, maps, and satellites. Ancient humans relied on something else entirely, their minds. For early humans, getting lost wasn't inconvenient. It was fatal. If you couldn't find your way back to water, you died. If you couldn't track the movement of animals, you starved. If you couldn't navigate terrain, you disappeared. There was no margin for error. So, the human brain adapted. Over thousands of generations, humans developed an internal navigation system so precise, it rivaled modern technology. But it didn't look like what you think. They didn't imagine maps the way we do. They experienced the world differently. To understand this, you have to forget everything you know about navigation. Because ancient humans didn't think in terms of left and right. They thought in terms of the world itself. North, south, east, west, absolute directions. There are still cultures today that use this system. Instead of saying, "The cup is to your left," they'll say, "The cup is to the north of you." That means at all times, they know exactly where north is, even indoors, even in the dark. Studies have shown that people raised in these cultures develop a constant awareness of orientation. It's automatic, like breathing. Now, imagine that level of awareness applied to survival. Ancient humans weren't just walking through the landscape, they were reading it. Every hill, every tree, every rock formation wasn't just scenery. It was information, a mental map constantly updating. But here's where it gets fascinating. They didn't just memorize locations, they turned the world into stories. In Australia, Aboriginal groups developed something called songlines. These weren't just songs, they were maps, entire landscapes encoded into rhythm and melody. Each verse described a landmark, a water source, a turning point. If you could sing the song, you could navigate hundreds of miles without ever seeing a map. Think about that. Navigation as music, memory as geography. And it worked because humans are wired to remember stories far better than abstract data. Even today, you can probably recall the lyrics to songs you haven't heard in years. Ancient humans used that same ability to survive. But songlines were just one method. There were others. Let's talk about the sky. Before cities, before light pollution, the night sky looked completely different. It wasn't empty. It was crowded. Thousands of stars, clear patterns, and a glowing band of the Milky Way stretching across the horizon. Ancient humans didn't just look at the stars. They depended on them. Polynesian navigators crossed the Pacific Ocean, thousands of miles of open water, using nothing but the stars, ocean swells, and wind patterns. No instruments, no compasses. Just knowledge passed down through generations. They memorized the rising and setting points of specific stars. Each star acted like a waypoint. As one star dipped below the horizon, another would rise, guiding them forward. It was like a moving map in the sky, and they could read it perfectly. But the stars weren't enough. They also read the ocean. Yes, the ocean. They could detect subtle patterns in wave movement, swells that traveled across vast distances. Even when land was hundreds of miles away, the ocean carried its signature. Reflected waves, changes in rhythm, invisible clues. To us, it's just water. To them, it was a language, and they were fluent. Now, let's come back to land. Because most ancient humans weren't crossing oceans. They were navigating forests, deserts, and mountains. And they did it without anything written down. So how? They paid attention. Constant attention. Modern life trains you to ignore your surroundings. Head down. Eyes on a screen, autopilot. Ancient humans didn't have that luxury. They noticed everything. The angle of the sun, the direction of the wind, the way shadows moved across the ground. Even time itself became a navigation tool. The sun rises in the east and sets in the west. That seems obvious, but ancient humans used this constantly. Combined with the position of shadows, they could estimate direction with surprising accuracy. And then, there were landmarks. Not just big ones like mountains, small ones. A twisted tree, a cluster of rocks, a bend in a river. Each one stored in memory, not as isolated points, but as part of a connected system. A network of meaning. Modern maps show you where things are. Ancient humans understood how things relate. That difference is everything, because it means they didn't just know locations. They understood space deeply. But here's the part that most people miss. This wasn't just skill. It was culture. Navigation knowledge wasn't optional. It was taught from childhood, passed down through stories, rituals, and daily life. Children didn't learn directions from a device. They learned by moving through the world over and over again until the landscape became part of them. And something else happened. Their brains changed. Neuroscientists have studied this. The hippocampus, the part of the brain involved in navigation and memory, can grow stronger with use. In people who rely heavily on spatial navigation, it becomes more developed. In other words, ancient humans weren't just using their brains differently. Their brains were physically adapting. Now, compare that to today. Most people can't navigate their own city without a phone. If GPS fails, we panic, not because the world is harder to navigate, but because we've stopped paying attention. We've outsourced one of the oldest human abilities, and we're losing it. But here's where it gets really interesting. When researchers take modern humans and remove navigation tools, no GPS, no maps, and place them in natural environments, something starts to happen. At first, people struggle. They feel disoriented, anxious, lost. But over time, their awareness sharpens. They begin noticing patterns. The sun, the terrain, the subtle cues they ignored before. It's slow, but it's there, like something waking up, because that ability never disappeared. It's still inside you, buried under convenience. Now, think about what that means. For hundreds of thousands of years, your ancestors navigated the world using nothing but their senses, memory, and attention. They didn't need technology. They were the technology. Every step they took was informed by a deep understanding of the environment. Every journey was a combination of knowledge, intuition, and experience. And they didn't just survive, they explored. They migrated across continents, adapted to new environments, and found their way through places we would consider impossible, all without a map. And then, we replaced it. Paper maps came first, then compasses, then digital navigation. And now, we don't even remember directions. We follow instructions. Turn left, turn right. You have arrived. And something subtle changed. We stopped building internal maps. We stopped engaging with space the way our ancestors did. We traded awareness for efficiency. And it worked. We move faster now, travel farther, and get lost less often. But we also experience less. Because when you're following a blue line on a screen, you're not really navigating. You're obeying. Ancient humans didn't have that option. They had to understand the world. And in doing so, they became deeply connected to it. So, the next time you open your phone for directions, pause for a second. Look around. Notice where the sun is, where the shadows fall, and what's happening in the landscape around you. You might not need it, but your brain does. Because buried somewhere inside you is a system designed to navigate the entire planet without a map. And it's still there, still waiting.